Thank you. Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. Today we have a very special training that a lot of you have been asking about. And we have a wonderful, very talented fundraiser here to facilitate this training with us. Laila, she is part of the 350 team, the US team. She's an organizer. She was leader at 350 New Hampshire. She now leads the US local group's work at 350.org and is an amazing fundraiser. So I will pass it on to you, Laila, for this great training. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Amira. Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet you. Hola a todos. Un placer conocerte. Today, I am going to go over some tips and tricks for making successful asks for funding for all of the awesome programs that you work on. And at the end, we'll have time for questions. So if you have things that I don't cover, you can feel free to ask questions, or I'll put my email in the chat so that you can email me afterwards. And let's give it a start. So first of all, thank you to 350 New Hampshire. Clearly, as you can see on the slides, this training belongs to 350 New Hampshire, which is one of the independent 350 groups out there, and we adapted it and added Spanish for this training. So why do we fundraise? What I would love to hear what you all are interested in fundraising for. Is it for staff? Is it for projects? What kind of things are you fundraising for? You can come off mute and say them or put them in the chat, either way. Projects, capacity building, yeah, those are really big ones. Awesome. So why do we fundraise? Well, we need power to win our campaigns and to run our programs and to do the work that we are all coming together to do. And different people define power in different ways, but with the organizations that I work with, a common definition is to think of power as organized money, organized people, and social capital. So social capital is thinking of our ability to influence the media or our ability to influence people in power through relationships. And it seems like you all know how to organize people. You're all here, you're all part of groups and awesome programs. And so we're going to talk about how we organize money. And we're going to talk specifically about how we do small and large donor asks. So I'm not going to focus on grant fundraising, but if people have questions, that's something we can talk about in the future. So who here has given money or given a donation to a cause that in the past 6 months? Just do like a raise hand or put your hand up on, on Zoom if you can. Awesome. See lots of people saying yes. And would anyone be willing to share, how did it make you feel when you donated? You can write it in the chat or come off mute. Abundant. That is a great response. Yeah, I can remember, I gave a few dollars to a campaign recently, and exactly, I felt like I was making a difference. I felt abundant. I felt positive. And when I ask this question, mostly people say they feel positive. But when I ask people why we don't, what do we feel about fundraising? It's very common to to have people say, it's scary, it's intimidating, we don't want to ask for money, it feels bad. So, what are our barriers? What's holding us back from fundraising? Um, some of the big ones that I hear all the time is that it's scary, or that we are taught that it's rude to ask for money and that we shouldn't ask for things. And what if someone says no, or what if it doesn't work? And these are all real concerns, and you all come from many different places and many different cultures, and so there may be different things that I don't experience where I live, that are real issues where you are, and so this list will be different for everyone. And I encourage everyone to just think back on how you feel when you give, or how you feel when someone asks you and you say no. I if someone asks me and I say no, I usually forget in about 1 minute when I move on to whatever I'm doing next. In my culture, I live in the United States in the Northeast. A lot of people are taught that it's not good to ask people for things at all. And that is part of the individualism that is really holding people in my community back. And so if that is existing where you live also, I encourage you to think about the collective good, and that fundraising is part of maintaining a community and maintaining the collective good. So, who do we think gives to nonprofits or groups like yours? Who are some of the people who are future donors or who already support your work? Yeah, like-minded people. So people who agree with what you're doing. That's a great example. Who else are some people that give either to your cause or any other cause, maybe like to a church collection or a food bank? Who are the people who support these kind of issues? Often it can feel like the only people who give are billionaires and millionaires and the ultra rich. And the reality is that people like us on this call do the majority of donating and supporting the causes that we care about. What is the number one reason people don't give? The number one reason that people don't donate is that they aren't asked. So there are tons and tons of people out there who would love to support the work that you are doing, but they just haven't been asked yet. So who can we ask? I would like to hear from you all if you are part of organizations or groups that are already doing fundraising. Who is supporting your work? Has anyone done any asks? Are there any businesses or individuals in the community that are supporting your work? Individuals, awesome, great. Can always rely on individuals. Well, the secret is that we can ask almost anyone who is in our network and our universe. So we can ask volunteers, we can ask our teachers, we can ask businesses, we can ask coworkers, we can ask family and friends. Um, We can ask strangers too, and lots of groups do it. However, I think it's easier to ask people who either are like-minded, like Katrina said in the chat, or people who we already know, because people tend to care about the issues that their friends and family are working on, in addition to caring about issues because they are really important issues that we all deal with every day in our lives. So how do we make an ask? Who here has done a fundraising ask before? Do like a hand raise or a plus in the chat. Just curious, who has done a fundraising ask before? Awesome. See some hands up. Some people are new. That's okay. It's great either way. You've come to the right place. So there are some good things and some things that are not so good when we do fundraising asks. So I'm going to do a list here. So here are some things that are good. We want to make a direct ask and then stop talking. We want to say, let's pretend I'm raising money for 350 New Hampshire, where I used to work, who made this, and I'm raising money for a youth fellowship program where high school students are going to learn about climate advocacy and do a campaign together. Oh, I'm seeing really interesting comments in the chat. And if this is different than what you are seeing, I think there are two possibilities. It could be that what it's also very possible that the type of asking that I do where I live is not the same and is not relevant to where you all live and how you all do fundraising. And so I would definitely recommend, if you can find anyone in your community who does fundraising for a similar organization, run this by them or ask them what works for them, because certainly different strategies work for different people and different places. And hey, if you can get strangers to support you, that's awesome. The more the merrier. So when I make an ask, I want to make a direct ask and then stop talking. So for example, I would say, hi, how are you? Do my little intro and then go right into the ask. Can you donate $10 to my youth internship program to support teenagers in New Hampshire learning about climate advocacy? Period. And then I have to avoid the instinct that can come up just to keep talking if you're nervous, or to say sorry if you're nervous, or to backtrack and be like, oh, and try to add more information. Your ask will be very much the strongest if you can pause and let the person have a minute to think about it and answer. I also recommend saying why the project is important to you, especially if you are talking to your family and your friends. I like to tell a little story about how the organization or the project has impacted me. So for example, I might say, I got involved in this type of work doing climate advocacy when I was a teenager. And there was an organizer just like me now who was older, who supported me and trained me and built up my leadership skills. And, I'm here today because someone invested time and energy in the youth of 10 years ago. And, I'd like you to donate to this program so that we can invest in the young people today. And then I pause. A third thing to try is to connect to the values of the person that you are asking. So it depends who you're talking to. And if they're a stranger, you might not know. But different people have different things that are important to them. So for someone, a value that's really important to them might be education. And to someone else, a value that is really important to them might be freedom. And I'm going to make a slightly different ask of someone who is really, really passionate about education versus someone who is really, really passionate about freedom. So for someone who's passionate about education, I'm going to say, we're running a program to educate youth about climate change and mitigation and how we can hold companies accountable, and the youth are going to get hands-on experience just like I did 10 years ago, and I'd like you to support this program because we need to educate the youth. Whereas if someone cares about freedom, but maybe they're not a teacher, maybe they didn't have a good experience with education, maybe it's not the value that is most important to them, we can frame it in a different way. We can say, we're giving young people the freedom to express their political opinions, or we're giving young people the future that they need to survive, and they're going to be a part of fighting for it. You all are the ones who will know best what values the people you are talking to have and have as their most important things to them. I recommend also, if you can, be really clear about where the money you raise is going to go. I think people like to feel like they know where the money is going. It's okay if a little bit of it might go to a different project. No one's asking for receipts, but I recommend pitching the importance of what you're doing. So maybe that's, this is funding for a youth fellowship program that's going to run in August and September over the summer before school. Or, maybe this is funding that you need to provide food at your next event so that the whole community can come and be nourished and have a good experience. Or maybe you are raising money because you have staff, or you want to hire staff and pay people to do this work full time. The last one here is it applies if you are doing this in English. I'm not sure if it applies the same if you are doing it in Spanish or another language, but in English, I recommend, if you can, actually stating your ask as a statement instead of a question. So instead of having your voice go up at the end, like you're asking, like, would you like to donate? Question mark. Instead, I actually like to say, I would like you to donate, period, because the way that people will hear it is much stronger. And that's what fundraising coaches have taught me over the years, is that the best fundraising ask is actually not a question, but instead a statement. We want to avoid being vague. We definitely want to avoid apologizing or backtracking, even if you feel nervous. And I saw someone highlight it in the chat. Follow-up is really important. Someone who is really good at fundraising once told me that until someone says, no, I do not want to donate, you should treat them as a potential donor. So basically, you can ask and you can follow up. If someone says yes, but then they don't get to it, it's okay to follow up. It's okay to say, hey, we talked about this. Would you still like to donate? Most people are really busy and they just forget And so if they didn't keep their commitment, I really recommend asking again. And even if someone says, I'm not sure, I want to talk to my partner, or I want to talk to my family, or, let me think about it. It's great to come back to them in a week or two and say, hey, I wanted to give you an update about the program and hear, whether you are still interested in donating. Here's what we're doing. So we're going to take a few minutes to practice. I would like to do breakout rooms in groups of 2 or 3 or whatever Amira and Afifa want to do here. And we'll take 10 minutes to take turns doing asks of each other. Just pretend for the work that all of you are engaged in.
Okay, so we have an English and a Spanish group, but looking at the numbers, I think there might be more than 2 to 3 persons in the group. So I will just quickly create 2 additional rooms. So there'll be 2 Spanish rooms and 2 English rooms, and you can just join based on your language.
Thank you so much, Afifa.
Okay.
I hope that all of the practice asks were as good as the ones in the breakout room I got to join. Would anyone like to share from their breakout room something that came up, or something that they learned, or something that came from the practice? Anyone like to do a report back? You can put it in the chat, or feel free to come off mute and say it out loud.
Okay, so Tracy here. I'll go first. I like the feedback after I did my acts about adding a little bit more information to those that I'm sending the acts to, or a follow up, because for me, it would be sending to friends and family that it could be in a phone call or such, which I do, but in the email is just to provide a little bit more information on, the benefits or the results, the outcomes of the project, and that was very good. And I like the acts from Hanan, because I felt it was really, really a very soft and gentle acts, and that was I really like that. So.
Awesome, thank you, Tracy. I heard some great feedback in the room as well. Tracy was just saying that the ask that she heard was very soft, and that really resonated and was a good way to make the ask. And so I just want to say, one of the really important things about fundraising is to know your audience. So I just said, in a few slides ago, that the best way to make an ask is actually to basically tell people, like, I want you to donate, and make it kind of a hard ask. And that might not work for everyone. So you may have friends and family who need a much softer approach. They might be anxious about their own ability to support. And so for some people, it's great to have a softer ask, like, if you're able, I would love for you to support the cause. And, if someone says, no, I can't support right now, that's okay. It's my job ask. I don't want anyone to ever feel bad. It's just my job to ask, and I want to make sure that anyone who wants to donate has been invited, because the last thing I want is for someone to not donate because we didn't ask them. Does anyone want to share something that came up in their breakout room?
Hi, yes, I can share. So I shared about our nature-based and like eco solution project that we're doing. And with my ask, well, I did fail to ask for certain amounts of money. So that was one of the feedback that I got. But one of the good feedback was that, of course, you have to sound knowledgeable when you're making these asks. So thank you so much for all the feedback, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Well, I will encourage you all to do many more practice asks. We're going to take a minute now to do a brainstorm, each for ourselves. And the idea is to think of 5 people that you can actually go back to in your community and ask for support for your project. So we're just going to take 2 minutes here, and everyone make your list, write yourself a note about why the work is important to you or what you're excited about and how much funding you want to ask the person for. The idea is always to ask high. A fundraising expert once told me that if someone says yes to your first ask, then you asked for not enough. Which doesn't mean that we should go out and ask all our friends for, $1 million. It just means that it's okay to aspirationally ask for, $10 if you're thinking about asking 5, or if someone has a high capacity, you can ask for, $100 if, even if you were thinking of maybe asking for just 50. So let's take 2 minutes for everyone to take time to make a list of 5 people that you're going to go back to your group and and ask for support, and then we will take time for questions. All right, we're gonna come back together and I will take any questions. I know that we mostly talked about asking people, individuals, for money, but feel free to ask any questions about any kind of, any kind of fundraising. And if I don't know the answer, I will just say I don't know the answer. You can either put your question in the chat or feel free to come off mute and ask a question. Are there minimum or maximum figures in this example? What does that mean? Like, is there a minimum number, like of dollars or an amount that we should ask? Can someone help me understand the question? It seems like a good one, and I just want to make sure that I'm understanding it right. I would say there's no ask that is too low, and there's no ask that is too high. I have asked lots of people who are students or people who don't have a lot of, personal resources, if they can donate just, just $3. And if you get enough people to donate, it all adds up. And for people who have a lot of resources, I don't think that there's any number that is too high. Any other questions out there? Yeah, this is a really good question about sustainability in fundraising, because if you raise a bunch of money for a project, then how do you keep the project going afterwards? And this is something that lots of people struggle with. And sometimes if an organization is big enough, they have someone whose job it is to fundraise all the time, all year. And so they can always be thinking ahead. If your project doesn't have that many people, I have a couple ideas, although I would say there's no perfect solution. One way to approach more sustainable fundraising is to do monthly donation asks. So instead of asking someone to make a one-time donation, you can invite them to make a smaller donation, so maybe just a few dollars, but for them to make that donation monthly. And some of the payment platforms that we use are set up to do that. If you're using a GoFundMe or if you are having people donate in cash, then that is harder to do. I can also recommend that if you are asking donors for support, it's okay to ask people for multiple years of support. It's okay to, especially a donor that has already supported your project and someone is a supporter and someone who's interested. It's okay to ask someone, can you donate this amount for the next 3 years? And you can explain to them, why it's important to have the sustainability. And maybe it's so that you can make sure that the progress you make with the community or with the kids that you're reaching is sustainable, and people, I think, will respond well to that. And then other than that, I would just say enlist as many people as you can to help you do the fundraising together. I think often people get a sense that fundraising is just, just for one person or just for experts. And that's just not true. All of you on this call can do effective fundraising. And if lots of people are participating in the effort, you will reach more people and you're more likely to have a sustainable income. And it also means that if one person who's been involved in the fundraising efforts has to take a step back or, goes on vacation, hopefully we won't have to worry as much about the sustainability of the project in the next, month or year. Yeah, exactly. It's the same model as Patreon or any of the monthly subscriptions we have, whether it be to Netflix or Spotify or whatever it is. I think people, it's because we pay for so many things that way, it's actually a great way to get people to give in an ongoing way. The last thing I can say about sustainability is that once someone makes a donation, there is a process of cultivation of that relationship in order to be able to make an effective ask the next month or the next year or just the next time that your group needs support. And so once someone says yes and supports you, and especially someone who has the capacity to support at a higher level or to support in an ongoing way, I recommend staying in touch with them. So either have a cup of tea with them and talk to them about your program, invite them to come see it if it's like a fun event where they could come to a day at the camp. You can send them a holiday card, whatever it is to keep you on their radar and to let them know that their donation is having an impact is going to go a long way the next year when you go to ask them for another donation. All right, any last questions here? I am going to put my email address in the chat, and anyone who thinks of a question later is welcome to email me anytime. Awesome. Well, thank you
so
all.
Much. Thank you
Thank
so
you all
much,
for
Laila.
participating. It was my pleasure. Awesome. Well, thanks, Amira and Afifa, and to both of our translators here, and to everyone for coming. And I wish you all lots of luck with your fundraising.
Thank you, Laila, and thank you everyone for joining. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon and the rest of the night as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.